inch model.
The song says, "My heroes have always been cowboys." Today, in the land of the Ozarks, Springfield, Missouri, the heroes are the drivers in the monster rigs of the Penda Series. At twilight's last gleaming, the fans have come to see their heroes trot out the horses in these modern-day mounts. Buckle up, America. Today on TNN, Trucks and Tractor Power. Tonight from the Ozark Empire Fairgrounds in Springfield, Missouri, it's stop number 3 of the Penda Points Championship. Hi, everybody, I'm Gary Lee, and welcome to our broadcast from the edge of the Ozarks. In fact, we're about 35 or 40 minutes from Branson, Missouri, in the southwestern corner of the state. Now, these monster trucks are characterized by the amount of air they get under the chassis. And we may see more air than usual this evening here in Springfield. And with more on that, here's my colleague, Army Armstrong.
Gary, the air you're talking about is a result of the monster trucks actually going up a ramp. In this case, the ramp has been shortened from 16 feet of angle to only 12 feet. That's giving the driver some problems because it makes the trucks have a tendency to get more air. It's good for you and I to look at, but it's bad for the monster truck because it makes the truck run in a nose-down position. Now, another thing, the ramp, you want to go straight over like this and land is one thing. If the ramp is teeter-totter to the left or the right, the truck will have a tendency to do what they call a pitch or a yaw, and that'll give you all kinds of trouble. So the drivers have got their hands full trying to negotiate a shorter ramp and hopefully a ramp that'll stay flat throughout tonight.
As evidence of that, Army, let's take a look at first-round qualifying. That ramp put things a bit off-kilter for Dan Patrick in Samson. On the second jump, he got nearly 45-degree angle to the turf, lands, tags the fence, and he was DQ'd on that run. He qualified second round, though, with a 5.99. That was good for 5th overall in qualifications earlier today. Now, the low qualifier had a 5.44 run. He went the opposite direction. Watch this run by Dan Runte and Bigfoot. So obviously the ramps creating some problems in qualifying earlier today. In round 1 competition, it was Dan Patrick and Samson against the young lady Pam Vaters in the Boogie van. Patrick thought he had the problem straightened out, but veers off to the right, got off course, and again was DQ'd, and Boogie van won with that 5.58. More round 1 highlights now. Tim Tesmer and Hercules took on Todd Frolik in Rampage. Tesmer having the same plight, but it's not affecting just the strong guys. Frolik was all over the place as well. Almost looks like the big bumper cars out there.
Well, the big Dodge matched the Boogie van with a 5.58 run. Pairings come out. Bigfoot Overkill, Boogie Van Rampage, Barefoot the Predator, and Hulkster against Monster Patrol. That'll be going into the second round, and that's where we are right now, Gary Lee.
Well, the Penda Points coming into this race, Dan Runte has won both events, giving Bigfoot the big lead over the Hulkster, Rampage, Barefoot, and the Executioner. Once again, this is stop 3. We're in the Ozarks in Springfield, Missouri. So now it's Dan Runte in the Bigfoot Ford out of St. Louis, Missouri, and he will stage against Kirk Dabney in the Overkill truck. And there's a look at Kirk out of Fort Wayne, Indiana, up in the northern portion of the Hoosier State.
Big story is the big blue truck sitting next to him. Dan Runte has not lost a round all year long. He's your current point leader. No man's land to tell the story. Dabney's coming on him, Gary.
Oh, and just by a fender. Only a fender, and not particularly quick at 5.90.
No, not the number the Bigfoot team was looking for, but what was really spooky on that run, Gary, was no man's land when Kirk Dabney settled down and went after him. Runte left the starting line quick, as we'll be able to see in a replay, but boy, when they got to no man's land, Dabney got real serious and started making up some big time.
Here's a look from the crash cam as you duck. Here comes Dan Runte and Bigfoot. So once again, Bigfoot had a scare. He's been unbeaten in every round so far this Penda Series, but he almost got nipped right there. So Dan Runte will be back for more competition. And we will as well come back with more round 2 competition from the Ozark Empire Fairgrounds here in Springfield, Missouri. Welcome back to Springfield at the Ozark Empire Fairgrounds. Gary Lee and Army Armstrong with more of round 2 competition.
Round 2, 2 vehicles in the first round had identical ETs, 558, so it's going to be the tree. Who's going to get it? Todd Frolik out of Pontoon Beach, Illinois. Big Chrysler Hemi makes lots of horsepower. Meanwhile, in the lane next to him, a young lady, Pam Vaters, out of Hagerstown, Maryland, a family-owned operation. Earlier in the day, Gary had a chance to visit with this young lady and find out just how do you get involved in this sport.
Well, it all began when me and Mike first started dating. He had a street truck that we got involved with, and he built it up to show it and everything. We went around to all the different shows. Finally, one day, he put it in the shop, and he said, I think I'm going to build a monster. So he built his first monster truck, which is Black Stallion, and he was in it for 8 years, and 2 years after that, he started building the new truck, which is the Boogie van. And I told him that I'd like to drive it instead of watching on the sidelines all the time. And first, it was a joke around the, shop and everything. And one day, a UPS truck came, and there was a purple fire suit in it, a little bit smaller than what he could fit into. So I guess he figured I was going to start driving, and that's where, it all began. He has a new truck that he's finally built that he finally got to have after 11 years, which is now Black Stallion 2000. He's doing real well with that one, too.
Now, do you ever sandbag and let him win?
Never.
They've got to have some interesting conversations running up down the highway talking about racing, but this is what it's all about. Hey, a hole shot by the young lady in the far lane, Gary.
Yeah, it looks like a DQ for the Rampage truck. Indeed, Pam goes a 567, a good ET for the young lady from Hagerstown, Maryland, and Rampage DQ'd.
Remember the opening of the show, I told you how important the angle of the ramps were left and right. Well, this is what catches the big Dodge. Horsepower doesn't count. He just can't keep it straight.
Coming right at you, indeed, a DQ for Rampage. The victory will go to Pam Vaters, so she will continue on in competition in the Ford Boogie van. Look one more time, a big margin of victory. Let's go down trackside now and visit with Pam Vaters.
Well, Pam, you're doing a good job driving, but I understand your husband's tuning not the motor but the chassis to make it work for you.
Yeah, he's tuning the suspension into the track, and of course I'm putting the horsepower down the track and everything. I know, I picked the left lane because I thought the left lane was better, and the tires was getting a good spin off or a bite off the line and everything. So we're just trying to tune everything in and keep everything going good.
As round 2 competition continues, it will be Barefoot against Predator. There's a look at Fred Shafer's Barefoot Dodge, also out of Pontoon Beach, Illinois, near the St. Louis area. Fred, a long-time drag racer before getting into monster truck racing. There's a look at Alan Pezo in the Predator.
Now, you got to remember, earlier in the day we had rain, so you can see a lot of mud out there. The starting line is not the problem. They've already dug through the moisture there. No man's land is where the problem is. A lot of horsepower hurts you there because it's slippery, Gary.
Yeah, there was some concern by these drivers over the shutdown area and how slick it was. Oh, a good run for Pezo.
Major upset in the sport of monster truck racing right there, and he's trying to get it shut down. He's on the throttle. Alan Pezo has a dream come true.
Alan Pezo is DQ'd. We're just being told that Alan Pezo was DQ'd when out of bounds. Oh, what a heartbreaker. Shafer's 586. We have seen a number of times faster than that turned in by the Dan Runte Bigfoot truck. And there's a look again at Alan Pezo. And watch, he had Fred Shafer covered, but right here, it digs off to the driver's left and goes out of bounds. And right there, he is disqualified. So Army alludes to a dream come true that turns into a nightmare for Alan Pezo. Here's Alan.
Alan, really spooky on the top end of this track. What's going on down there?
Well, the rain earlier today has really upset the track. It's real muddy out there. And with all that wet ground out there, makes it really slippery. When we go out there to land, you have no idea which way that truck is going.
Getting ready now for the last race of round 2. There is the Hulkster-Eric Meagher. And And he will go up against Monster Patrol, and Monster Patrol driven by Paul Shafer.
Both of these drivers have had an opportunity to watch the truck in front of them. They know there's problems on the top end of the track. Do you drive for the top end? Do you drive for no man's land? Do you drive for the starting line? They've had a chance to think it through. Let's see which one thought it through correctly.
Well, it's the Hulkster, and that is actually a Ford truck. Eric Meager out of the Bigfoot stable. They are second now in the point standings.
Yeah, he goes to 580. That's not a bad number considering the situation.
Well, coming up, we'll have Bigfoot against the Boogie van down in the semifinals, and the Hulkster against Bearfoot. And let's go back trackside and visit now with Eric Meagher.
You guys are literally working for a living out there tonight. I mean, it's so spooky all the way down the track, plus the shutdown area.
Oh, everything's spooky from the starting line, like you said, to the shutdown area. We've got our hands full. This has got to be, without a doubt, the trickiest track we've been on in years. You got some soft spots, some dry spots. You don't know whether to check up or stay with it. Along and coupled with the cars that are in your way and the suspension. We've got our hands full here tonight, and it's going to make for some exciting racing.
Well, the semis are coming up from Springfield, Missouri. Welcome back to the semis from the Ozark Empire Fairgrounds here in Springfield. Dan Runte and Bigfoot against Pam Vaters in the Boogie van. Now, between rounds, Army took a look at the ever-changing track conditions.
Gary, we're standing on the starting line at Springfield, an area that in the past has given the drivers troubles because of the track actually going away. Well, you can see there's a rut developed. As a matter of fact, this is the original surface the track started at, but look how far down it is now. They've actually thrown all this mud out. In throwing the mud out, though, they've gotten down to real solid clay, and the drivers say this is the best track they've ever run on. They've dug it down as far as it's going to go. It's not going to go any further. So the tires won't go down, but the trucks will go to the other end.
Where it's slick and hazardous, so they have some good conditions and some bad conditions here in Springfield. As we are ready now for the first race of our semis. Once again, Dan Runte and Bigfoot. There's a look at Pam Vaters in the Boogie van.
One thing you got to remember, Runte has not lost a lap all year long. So he could be playing a little bit of psychic game with her, and these drivers are not above doing that. He's taking his time going into the lane right now.
But Pam was quicker in the last round than was Dan Runte.
All that really does is give her lane choice for this round. Oh, that's what I'm talking about right there. A little bit of mind games. He took his time going into the light. She's sitting there with her torque converter and her RPMs up. Got a little bit nervous. He goes to the next round with a 587. She goes on the trailer.
With the red light.
It's a psych job. It's exactly what that is, and she knows it. I guarantee it'll never happen again. But Runte late into the lights, making her a little bit nervous. As soon as she saw any kind of movement on that tree, she left. Wrong time to go.
So you can see where she red lighted, and Runte takes it out the end, and he will move on to the finals. And once again, he has yet to be defeated so far this season. As we take a look at another angle off to your right, you'll see her jump right there, and she knows she's in big trouble as Runte will take the victory. And here's Dan Runte.
Pam, uncharacteristic, made a move up there, but she said she thought she saw green.
Pam's always quick on the light. She's one to watch. Before Bigfoot's been running good. She had lane choice. She threw us over there. We tried something different. Seen a red light, and we left and just made a decent pass to get into the next round.
And the next round, of course, we'll have to wait to see who he will take on as Fred Shafer comes on in Barefoot, and he'll go up against the big yellow Hulkster with Eric Meagher.
Gary showing us that each jump has its own characteristics or personality. And earlier in the day, Gary had a chance to look at the second jump in the series of two here at Springfield Fairgrounds.
We here on Trucks and Tractor Power have been covering the Penda Points Championship for a number of seasons. And yeah, we know there are other monster truck competitions around the country, but there is one big difference between those and the Penda Series. And that big difference is right here in this area after the second jump. Now, in the other exhibitions and championship events, this car is actually moved down against this car here. So a driver can come up the ramp and actually drive across these junkers. But in the Penda Points Championship, the gap between the ramp and this car right over here is about 25 feet. That means that once the monster truck settles down in no man's land, the driver is back on the throttle and actually jumps this section of the racing course. It makes for great competition and a much better show.
And it also makes the drivers drive hard the whole course, Gary. You can't loaf over that second jump. You got to hit it a lick. Speaking of hitting a lick, look who's coming out. Barefoot-Fred Shafer, Dodge Hemi in the far lane. He's going up against the Hulkster, the Hulk Hogan vehicle. Eric Meager doing the driving. Dodge Ford battle, the classic. Watch these guys go at each other tooth and nail.
This is for the right to meet Bigfoot for the championship here in Springfield.
Oh, good job by the Dodge. A little bit out of kilter. They're still not hitting that second jump flush, Gary. A 5:39. Hey, he's found a good number there. A 5:39 should be quick in the evening so far.
Well, on the replay, it was just a great reaction by Barefoot. Fred Shafer got the whole shot. He won it right there, as it looked like the traction was the problem for the Hulkster. And Barefoot and the big Dodge Hemi will go on to meet Bigfoot for the championship. Let's go trackside and visit with Fred Shafer.
Fred, on a night that we thought it was going to take finesse, it looked like you just used old muscle Hemi horsepower there.
Boy, I did, Army. It got loose on me, and I had to let off and got back in it, and I thought I was crooked, but I think we made it.
5:39, quick time of the night. Gives you lane choice in the final, but you know Bigfoot is going to come out loaded literally for bear, and that's not a play on word.
Army, I think the lane's going to do it. I think that left lane there, that's the first run I made in that left lane so far this weekend, and that was the fastest run. I think I can go a little faster this run, so we're looking for being that final.
We are ready for a classic monster truck shootout, Bigfoot and Barefoot. Take part in this four-wheel fun.
Well, you know, Gary, tonight in Springfield, everybody got a chance to be in a little bit of the action. Now, David Hutchinson comes out with the Jeep of the tough truck competition. The short wheelbase Jeep looked like it might be the way to go, but Dave's showing you nothing's easy in the tough truck category, as you well know, Gary Lee.
Well, of course, these are, shall we say, the amateurs who love to come out and put on a show. They're 15 minutes of fame and glory. And he puts the Jeep up on its nose. That had to smart.
Oh, man. Well, now, he wasn't the only one that came out. Al Dickey comes out in another 79 Jeep. Al was here last year. He's kind of an attack driver. He really likes to show off for the crowd. I think he shows his Jeep off a little bit in the show and shine area when he's not competing. Not such a wild ride this year as we've seen him participate in the past. But Steve Hoffman comes out with a Bronco, and you got to have a guy like Steve in every round of a competition. The crowd gets the adrenaline going. The adrenaline pushes the right foot to the floor. And, it's hard.
But the crowd pleaser of the tough truck competition was Shane Ballard. Now, watch him here.
Yeah, Shane Ballard's from the Gary Lee School of High Performance Driving. And you can see, he has a ball. Is that a black truck with white or white with black? Whatever. Doesn't make any difference. The crowd loves this guy. Showtime! That hurt me. I was 150 feet away. He hit so hard, Gary.
Tell you what, the truck might be white and black. The driver's going to be black and blue after a run like this. We're ready for the finals. It's blue against red. It's Ford against Dodge. It's Bigfoot and Barefoot. Of course, they compete with these big tires. They cannot transport these trucks with the big tires, so they have to change tires. Here's an interesting observation from Army.
How do you put a round peg in a square hole? Well, that looks like the problem you're facing when you're taking these monster trucks up and down the highway, because you know they're too wide to fit into the boxes. Well, the big tires you see them race with, those are not the tires they transport them with. And earlier today we had an opportunity to watch Fred Shafer's crew and see just how they do transport these behemoths up and down the highway. Don't let the tire size fool you.
Back now for the finals under the lights here in Springfield.
You hit the Dodge Ford aspect. It's also Goodyear and Firestone. We got a race. Oh, man. Bigfoot takes the win, Gary. Shafer has to backpedal. A 5:22, quick in the evening, the final run. That's the quickest time. But Shafer on the right of your screen, as you'll see, not able to square up with that second jump. He's out of shape now.
So Dan Runte remains unbeaten in Penda competition. Let's go down to Victory Lane and talk to Dan Runte and the team owner, Bob Chandler.
You knew you were going to have a battle on your hands. You knew stepping into the name Bigfoot that you had some tough shoes to fill. Okay, and this is the guy that trusted you and believed in you.
Yeah, he is. You know, you got a lot of big shoes to fill when you come into this. He's got a good team, a bunch of guys at the shop. Ford Bigfoot pulled it out. It's tough on the Penda Point Series. We just did the best we could round by round, and I'm kind of fired up. And like I said, he is a great boss.
Once again in the Penda Points Championship, Bigfoot opens up even more of a gap over the teammate Hulkster. Then it's Bearfoot, Rampage, and the Boogie van.
Well, the big story is points lead by Bigfoot. You brought that out, but the Boogie van comes up and bumps the Hall brothers out of that top 5, so we can have a Donnybrook before this year's over just to get into the top 5. Well, the fans are filing out of Springfield. This is the man that's responsible for it. You're looking at Bob Chandler as he goes around to congratulate his new driver. Jim Kramer there congratulating him. Gary, it's been a great night.
Our congratulations to the Bigfoot team. For Army Armstrong, I'm Gary Lee. We'll see you next week. Trucks and Tractor Power is a production of Diamond P Sports in association with the Nashville Network.
Ready for the
This is Trucks and Tractor Power featuring the best in MTRA monster truck racing. It is a hot and humid night here in the Ozarks as we prepare for round 4 of the Penda Points Championship. Hi, everybody. I'm Gary Lee. Tonight, we're in Springfield, Missouri at the Ozark Empire Fairgrounds. And the question on everybody's mind is, can anybody beat the Big Blue Ford? Bigfoot and Dan Runte have been unstoppable this season. However, in the last outing, Fred Shafer finished second. So now is the time for that big red Dodge to break through the victory lane. Here's Army Armstrong.
Gary, you're exactly right. That Big Blue Ford over there has a winning streak going, but before the night's over, if Bearfoot and his crew got anything to say about it, they're going to have that Blue Ford seeing red, Dodge red, because Shafer and his crew have literally been thrashing all day long. They say they're making more horsepower than they ever have. They feel like that second-place finish is giving them momentum. They turned the corner on performance, and they know they have the capabilities of beating that Big Blue Ford. The big question is, can they do it tonight? Shafer assured me this truck will go quicker than 5 flat before this event's over. Let's see if he can live up to his words.
Well, one guy who had it in the 4s in qualifying was Eric Meager in the bright yellow Hulkster, a Ford-powered truck. Once again, that was back in qualifying, your fast qualifier at 496. And in round 1, Fred Shafer taking on Dan Patrick and Samson. Fred did, in fact, put that big red Dodge in the 4s with this run at 4.88. So perhaps Fred will be the guy to beat later this evening. Also tonight, we'll have a crush cam. Here's our crush cam operator installing it before the race to provide great shots like this one. Always looking for new places to put cameras. Well, first race in round 2 features Fred Shafer in the left lane, the lane away from the camera. Now, he'll be taking on Pam Vaters in the lane nearest the camera in the right lane. And Army took a look at the race course.
Earlier this afternoon, a torrential rainstorm came through Springfield, Missouri. Now, Springfield has always been known as a track that has a good lane and a bad lane. Well, that has always been determined in the past by the area on the other side of the first jump, the starting line. That will not be the case this year. The near lane, they've had to go and actually cut, as you can see them now, about 6 inches of topsoil off of this lane in order to get a mud hole that had developed from that rainstorm. Now, I want you to keep in mind, the far lane is on grass. The near lane is going to be on dirt. We're racing at night. What's the slickest thing in the world? Wet grass. What I'm saying is, the good lane this year could indeed be the lane that looks bad now. It'll be the best before the night's over. Keep an eye on the right lane.
Well, we'll see how it shakes out as Pam Vaters will be in that right lane. Nearest the camera, Vaters in the Boogie van. Far lane, Fred Shafer and Bearfoot. The Ford against the big Dodge.
Not going to do it. Dodge will take the win out of the grassy lane, if you will. Back in the 4s, a 495. So they have indeed turned the performance corner of the 5-second barrier as we get a head-on shot of what it looks like.
Well, as Pam Vaters goes up and over, it was all Fred Shafer, so well, he could be the guy to beat this evening. Let's go down and get his comments pit side.
Well, Fred, that's one round down. Does the truck seem to be where you want it to be?
After this afternoon, Army, it seems like it's working real good. We'd like to thank Dodge for that new Dodge Ram. 488, 495, good competitive time.
Fred seems to be happy. Can he pull it off here in Springfield? We'll find out as we come back with more on Trucks and Tractor Power. Welcome back to the Ozark Empire Fairgrounds in Springfield, Missouri. Some of the track preparation that goes on before and during a monster truck event.
I don't know if that'd be track preparation or crush cam preparation. Samson comes out going against Bigfoot. Ford against Chevy. Privateer, Dan Patrick right here. Used to work for the Bigfoot camp. He's out by himself now out of Ohio, out of the Buckeye State, going up against a kid that literally was that when he started to work for Bigfoot. Dan was over there as the mentor. This guy comes over just a new kid on the block. Now he stepped up in the driver's seat. That would be Dan Runte.
And, of course, Dan Patrick built many of these monster truck frames. He knows this sport from the ground up.
Gary, the kid takes the win, so he beat his mentor in that round of 491, and it didn't look like he was really running the truck that hard.
Looks like the track is getting faster as well. We're seeing more runs in that 4-second category.
Here's another truck that potentially could do it. The execution of the Hall brother team, they have definitely turned the performance corner. Mark doing the driving, Tim turning the wrenches. They could be players, Gary.
Well, speaking of the player, it would still appear that Dan Runte is the guy to beat. He is unbeaten so far this season. He remains supreme in this competition. Here's Dan.
Well, another lap down. These guys are still trying to figure some way to beat you.
Yeah, the Ford Bigfoot's running good. We're changing a lot of things round by round, just adjusting for the track. This track's a lot different than it was the last race here. Got a good crew. We're just going to have to wait and see what happens. We're picking up time every round. We're just going to go on with it.
In every form of competition, you hear about the drivers, the teams chasing the track. It is no different in monster truck competition. These guys are chasing this track this evening.
And the Ford takes the win out of the far lane. The Hulkster with another sub-5 second, 494. And it's like you said, they've not only chased the track, I think they've reeled it in. The Hall brothers, a good run, but not going to be a player. The replay comes up on the screen. The starting line shows the win here. Now the far lane settles down. See all four wheels on the ground? He's on the throttle picking up that 490-plus run.
So Eric Meager in the Ford takes the victory. He has to be happy as he advances.
Big question, can you or anybody else beat this blue truck tonight? You got the quick qualifying time. You know you can turn the number, but can you get past him?
Yeah, our truck's running real good. We had a good qualifying pass. We felt like we were a couple tenths ahead of everybody. The blue truck was strong, but we came out a little faster. Hopefully, if we get in the final round, we'll be a little faster than the blue truck tonight.
We are ready now for the final pair of round 2, and there's a look at Kirk Dabney and Overkill.
Dabney, during the off-season, if there is such a thing, is a pro street builder. Builds a lot of these hot rods you see around the country, and he builds them for guys all over the country. He's out of Fort Wayne, Indiana. Out of Pontoon Beach, Illinois, Todd Frolik comes out with the Hemi Dodge Rampage. A mean old truck. Back in black in that big Hemi. A tough combination.
Oh, and Overkill had the whole shot, but he was DQ'd out of bounds. Todd takes the victory.
14, a 514. Not the number he was looking for, but it gets him through this round.
Watch the left lane. The whole shot right there.
Yeah, the privateer in the Ford camp out of Fort Wayne, Indiana, was reading a ride act to him until the second jump came along.
But Todd kept it straight, takes out the victory, and continues on in competition.
When something like that happens, does it break your concentration? Do you have to come back and get in your own zone before you go to the line again?
Oh, I try to stay in my own zone, Army. I'm fairly new at it, and Fred gives me this brand new Dodge Ram to drive. I think the truck can do it if I can just stay, like you said, in the zone.
Well, he has a good set of wheels under him, indeed, if he can hang on. Hey, speaking of hanging on, look out. Let's come back and forth. Stay with us. Well, Welcome back to the Ozark Empire Fairgrounds here in Springfield. Gary Lee along with Army Armstrong. We are ready to show you some highlights of our tough truck competition. And a crowd favorite is Shane Ballard.
Now, Shane Ballard is the guy that took this real big jump the other night. The finish line officials have decided we're going to change the track a little bit. We're going to have a big jump on the end or a small jump on the end to let the drivers take a choice. And Ballard is literally beating his truck to pieces. The left front fender comes off. Pieces are falling off all the way around, but he's still on the gas, Gary.
Once again, the small jump at the end, not quite the crowd pleaser as the big one.
That's the baby jump. They don't like that, but he does get his fender back. Well, even the street trucks get a shot at this in the tough truck competition, and the loopy-loos seem to be the tough part of the course for a lot of these guys to get through. Oh, man, that's got to tear your suspension up, Gary.
Well, here's Steve Huffman in the roaring ragtop.
Short wheelbase Ford Bronco should get around the course real good. Oh, tag, you're in.
I think he just kicked the can.
I used to play that game when I was here. Now, speaking of kicking a can, I want you to watch this guy. He left impressions of himself all over this track, literally.
This is like a one-man demolition derby. Now, first he's going to lose the tailgate.
There it goes.
The tailgate.
Okay. Now keep an eye on the muffler out here. Yeah, see the muffler tailpipe starting to fall off. Crowd's getting into it. They're egging him on. Final jump. And there goes the tailpipe. Da-da-da-da-da-da. What can you say? You know, in the Baseball Hall of Fame, they put your picture up. In Springfield, in the Tough Truck Hall of Fame, they mount your tailgate on the wall.
Todd Frolik and Eric Meager up next as we get to the semis. There's a look at the Rampage Dodge and the big yellow Hulkster Ford. Under all that fiberglass is a Ford.
If you're dealing with the team concept, what you're looking at is the number 2 truck in the Bigfoot team right there and the number 2 truck in the Dodge team. This is a corporate battle. Don't think for a minute. These guys don't even like each other. I'll be real honest with you. They just want to beat each other. And Detroit is watching this race as close as you and I are right now.
Once again, as they stage, Dodge and Ford.
Whoa, I couldn't see from my angle, Gary, who won it.
Eric Meager, the fast qualifier, and he prevails here at a 494, but only by inches. Watch again how close it is at the finish.
You got to remember the margin of victory is always one. In this case, it was one fender, Gary.
Well, you can see how close it was right there, but Eric Meager will go on to the championship round here in Springfield. Let's go visit with Eric.
Well, he just put Rampage away. That's got to make you feel good. That Dodge is a bad hombre.
It is. The Rampage has been running real well. The Dodge boys are always right there. But this big blue oval bunch here, we're doing our homework. The lanes seem like they're loosening up a little bit, and the times are showing that, but we got to keep ahead of everybody else.
Well, he's exactly right. You got to keep chasing the track, as you said before, Gary.
Well, once again, it's Ford against Dodge. We saw one set of teammates. Here are the other teammates on the Dodge team and the Ford team.
Remember, I referred to the other team with no disrespect as to being the number 2 trucks in the team. Now we're looking at the number 1 guys in each of these teams. Runte in the Ford. Buku horsepower. Motor sitting right beneath the driver and behind him. Same scenario for the Dodge. The only difference, you're running a big Dodge Hemi and Fred Shafer's truck, which is closest to the camera. Not a lot of love between these teams. Not any love between these teams. Again, corporate America's watching it. They've got one win for the Ford camp. Let's see what's going to happen here.
Look at the wheel! Look at that wheel stand Fred Shafer put on the show. If you can't win these spectacular, Dan Runte won it. But boy, was Fred Shafer spectacular. And look at the crowd.
Man, they are into it. Shafer, that is just nothing but experience. A less experienced driver would have backed on the throttle and completely come over. Shafer on the gas after the first jump, wheels it up, pulls the feet out of the water. Now he's on the throttle big time. He's got to keep it balanced, and that's exactly what he does for the second jump.
Yeah, he had to keep his foot in the throttle to keep that rear end churning and pulling. And oh, what a ride for Fred Shafer.
Fred, experience had to pay off in that particular situation.
Yeah, right, Army. This new Dodge Ram's got a lot of power, as you can see there. And I said this time I'm going to put it to the floor. It's a real important race for us. And I didn't see anything but sky there, and went over the other end. You see what happened there. Still lost the race, but it had a lot of power.
I'll tell you what, I noticed, really, if you'd have backed on the throttle, you'd have probably gotten yourself in trouble.
Yeah, that's what happens, Army. You're right there. You need to stay in, keep that front end up and keep that thing going like that, because you could get in trouble there if you get out of it too much.
Well, here is a look now from the crush cam. Watch Fred Shafer and Bearfoot. In fact, it looks like a huge grizzly walking right at you. What an impressive, spectacular ride for Fred Shafer. But the victory went to Dan Runte. And here's Runte with Army.
Were you aware that he was taking a wild ride out there next to you?
Honestly, no. It's getting so close and so fast here, Penda Point Series. It's just getting tough. You got to run your own race, basically race the light and just go down through there. No, they said he took a real wild ride, though. I mean, all the way down through there. Ford Bigfoot Firestone tires. We got her done again.
So it will be the Bigfoot teammates, Dan Runte and the Hulkster with Eric Meagher coming up for the championship. We welcome you back to the Monsters and the Tough Trucks. But that's not the only competition we're enjoying here at the Ozark Empire Fairgrounds. Fans have been treated to some great motocross action. Here is action from the first heat this evening.
Yeah, keep an eye on number 872. That's Jack Jones. He went down in the first corner. Radical Rod turned on the number 7 bike, really going in. There you go. So they were really pushing and shoving. The little Kawasaki rider has to work his way back up to the field. Now, they're running on exactly the same course that the Tough Trucks ran on. But as you can see, they like that big jump, Gary Lee, and they really seem to get the crowd involved in this thing.
Well, the crowd loves the air as Jack Jones getting back into things, moving through the pack. But Radical Ron was the hero of today in number 7. Boy, he really got the air. The fans love. Watch this.
You know, I don't think that they even realized that he was the leader of the race. He was just the guy getting the most air, and he was showing off and loving every minute of it. But the other riders impressed me, too. Got some good two-wheelers in this part of the country, Gary Lee.
Well, those same two would put on a great battle in the next heat. Turner would get around Jack Jones and go unchallenged the rest of the way. There is the pass right there.
Yeah, he made a move on him on the infield portion of the course, sets up for the big jump, and then airs it out, literally.
Radical Ronnie Turner won both motos, and the fans certainly enjoyed what they were seeing out there this evening.
That's one thing about these jamborees. There's all kind of motorsport action. If you like motorsports, they got something you're going to like to buy a ticket to see at one of these jamboree events.
Now, they also staged a jump-off. Now, watch this attempt by Ron Turner.
I could do that.
Yeah, I want to see you try that sometime, Army.
I could do that, too. I couldn't do that. Yeah, the crowd loves it. He's playing it to the hill.
Jack Jones, as we are now ready for the finals. Can that truck right there remain unbeaten? Bigfoot-Dan Runte leads the Penda Points Championship, goes up against his Bigfoot teammate, the Hulkster-Eric Meagher.
Meager had quit qualifying time of the night. He has been beat by Dan before. They're good friends, they're good competitors, but keep the word competitor in mind. Meager would love nothing better than to thump this blue truck in Missouri. You got to remember, these guys are in their own home state, so bragging rights is important here. World Championship Wrestling on one of them. On the other truck, the blue truck, you're going to see sponsors like you've never seen in racing before, like the name Microsoft. You see Firestone. You see Deflect-A-Shield. All the major corporations getting involved in this sport because these guys can get you some exposure, and that's what it's all about. Right now, bragging rights, Gary Lee. You take the call for the final in Springfield.
Runte playing some head games with his teammate like he did with Vaters earlier. Didn't work, though. Who's going to take it?
Boom.
Oh, big blue. Bigfoot remains unbeaten. Dan Runte at a 4.93.
The big question now is, can this guy go a year without getting beat? Replay comes up on the screen. Both good drivers move first in the far lane.
But after the first jump, the Big Blue Bigfoot settles down right here. He applies the horsepower, gets it hooked up, launches off that second ramp, and takes the victory. So Dan Runte remains unbeaten, well atop the Penda Points Championship. Here's your winner.
Well, as a crew, congratulations. We're going to have to call him the unstoppable Dan Runte. Man, this is an awesome. I don't think I've known anybody to go this far without getting beat.
We're doing great. Like I said, I got a great team. I can't say enough about Mac Tools behind us, Ford and Firestone, all those people. But like the guys I got here, I got to give them all the credit. Every time we needed a little more, Gary, Celine, he gave me a little more, and the Ford Bigfoot went out there and just did an awesome job tonight. Thanks.
Well, our congratulations as they start spraying. I'm not sure that's champagne. Oh, that's just a super shooter. Little water gun action down there. As we take a look at the current standings in the Penda Points Championship, again, the gap widens between first and second. Barefoot's third, Rampage and Pam Vaters is still fifth in the Boogie van.
Let's take a look at a final run one more time from the crush cam. Better get ready to duck. It don't get any closer than this. Bigfoot thumping you right now in Springfield, Gary Lee. A great night of racing. The big question is anybody going to be able to catch this big blue Ford, even in a heat race, much less take a win from him?
Well, we hope you enjoyed all of tonight's monster truck racing from Springfield, Missouri. For Army Armstrong, I'm Gary Lee. Our congratulations to Dan Runte, Bob Chandler, and the Bigfoot crew. We'll see you next week on Trucks and Tractor Power. Missouri Ozarks is a peaceful place of tranquil lakes, secret fishing spots, and lazy summer afternoons. But today, the Ozarks will shake, and not even Bill Dance could catch a fish. The monster trucks are pounding the ground, and they're battling it out in Springfield. From the Ozark Empire Fairgrounds, this is Trucks and Tractor Power, MTRA Monster Drag. With sunshine and the temperature in the upper 80s, it's a hot, humid day here in Springfield, Missouri, in the Ozarks. Hi, everybody. I'm Gary Lee, and welcome to the Ozark Empire Fairgrounds for stop number 5 of the Penda Points Championship. Now, over 100 years ago, the most wanted man in the Ozarks was the outlaw, Jesse James. Today, the most wanted man is Dan Runte, right there, the driver of Bigfoot. So far, he is unbeaten. He's won every round in Penda competition this season. Now, history tells us that over 100 years ago, when they put a bounty on the head of Jesse James, it was a former gang member, Charlie Ford, that gunned him down, shot him in the back. Will history repeat itself? Can Dan Runte's gang member, i.e. his teammate Eric Meager, gun him down? Or will it be somebody else? Well, no matter what happens, Army Armstrong, Dan Runte is a marked man.
Well, being a marked man is one thing, and being on top, they always say there's only one way to go. But what you're looking at right now could really be a posse that's going after this guy. The big question is, when is the streak going to end, and where's it going to end? Now, you relayed back to Jesse James of Missouri. I'm going to say it's more like Custer. Which one of the Indians are going to get him? That's the question.
Going back now to highlights, in the first round of qualifying, Eric Meager in the Hulkster threw the first punch. In fact, he laid down a low qualifying ET of 4.83. There you go, guys. That's what I can do. What can you do? Well, Dan Runte in the Bigfoot truck took that challenge, and right off the trailer, he laid down a 4.93, only 1/10 off. So the Hulkster would have the #1 qualifying position. Alan Pezo had some problems in qualifying. The Predator with suspension and drive shaft problems. That left a question mark about Pezo remaining in competition as the Black Predator having his problems. And here were some comments from Alan Pezo.
You're going to be able to get back 4 first rounds, the question.
I don't believe so. I don't have the right U-joint with me to repair it. The flange is okay, but the U-joint broke.
So Alan thrashed away and did make round 1. But from the frying pan into the fire, up against the #1 qualifier, Eric Meager in the Hulkster, there was no match. This was first-round competition. Eric laid down a 4.94 to Allen's 5.75. So Eric Meager, the fast qualifier, looked to be well on his way, but could he get by the big blue Bigfoot? But round 1 had even bigger surprises. #3 qualifier and 3rd in the Penda Points Championship, Fred Shafer in Barefoot, was upset by Mark Hall in the Executioner. Fred was disqualified. He was out of bounds. Oh, my, what a surprise. Army talked to Fred.
DQ after the first round. That's not where you're used to coming from.
No, it's not, Army, but when I get up there, I'm representing Dodge, and I put that thing to the floor every run, and that's what they expect out of me. That's what I do.
As we take a look at the round 2 ladder, there's your matchups: Overkill, Hulkster, the Executioner and Monster Patrol, Rampage, Hercules, and Bigfoot and the Boogie van. Well, there is a look inside the cockpit at Kirk Dabney and Overkill. Now, he's all psyched up as we go into round 2 competition.
The track has already proven itself, Gary, that it will take the horsepower. A lot of sub-5-second runs. Dabney comes out at the points total for the National Penda Point Series showing the scoreboard. Bigfoot is literally reading a riot act to everybody else. Hulkster, Barefoot, Rampage, and the Boogie van. Boogie van being the only privateer in the top 5.
Well, there is a look at Eric Meager in the Hulkster. That is the teammate to the truck that leads the point standings. That's the Bigfoot organization. There's Kirk Dabney out of Fort Wayne, Indiana, in the Overkill. Overkill the near lane. That's Ford in the far lane. It's the fast qualifier. The guy with lane choice, Eric Meager, takes the victory at 4.89. And Overkill was there by virtue of being a fast loser in round 1. So he will go to the truck, and there's a look at Vaters as we get ready for more competition in Springfield. Welcome back to Springfield Ozark Empire Fairgrounds, Springfield, Missouri, for round 2 of the MTRA Monster Drags. We'll have Mark Hall in the Executioner, and he'll go up against Paul Shafer in the Monster Patrol.
Now, Hall's already gotten past one Shafer, Fred Shafer, in the first round. The big question is, can he get past Paul? Paul, a salvage yard operator up in northern Indiana. And Mark Hall, a young gun on the circuit out of Champaign, Illinois. He and his brother have, I believe, turned that proverbial performance corner, Gary.
And Army talked to Mark about start line procedures for a monster truck driver.
Mark, tell me the routine you as a driver go through when you're on the starting line.
Well, by the time you see us at the starting line, we already have our helmet and fire suit and gloves on. My routine is I pull up to the line, I give my harnesses one more good tug. I look at all my gauges, make sure that I got good oil pressure, I got good temperature in the motor. Make sure my fuel system is all the way on so it doesn't vibrate off. Then we have a air button, or our shifter is operated with an air button. So I make sure my buttons are all the way up, and then I give one more good tug on the harness, pull up to the line, turn my first light on, and then pull forward, flip my shield down. I'm ready to go.
Well, he's ready to go now. You can see him tucked away in the cockpit. The Executioner with Mark Hall, the Monster Patrol with Paul Shafer.
Doing his thing. Man, you love to see these guys come together. A 5:29, not that great a number, so the driving had to take the win for it. Shafer in the other lane runs strong. Hall just put him on the trailer. You know, it's interesting. Mark Hall has one client. He runs a welding shop. He has one client. You know who his client is? Paul Shafer, the guy he's racing in the other lane. Boy, I hope he gets orders on Monday morning.
Well, it's been a good day so far for Mark Hall. He takes the victory. There's the margin of victory right there. He has to be ecstatic.
One round at a time, but are you guys doing anything different today than you normally do?
No, we're just, I don't know. Things are just starting to happen for us, and it's finally coming around a little bit. I don't know that we're necessarily doing anything different. I think maybe we're just getting a few breaks.
The next pairing will see Rampage against Hercules. And there's a look at the black Rampage. There is Hercules.
Hercules truck, a Chevrolet driven by Tim Tesmer out of Avon, Ohio. He's a privateer. When we say privateer, we mean they don't run with the major sponsor. He's pulling the money off his own head. Todd Frolik out of Pontoon Beach, Illinois, driving the #2 truck for the Dodge camp. he can definitely be a player. Horsepower has never been a problem with these Dodges, Gary Lee. It's always been chassis, hasn't it?
Well, it's a matter of getting the horsepower hooked up because, 3,000 horsepower can't do you any good if you can't get it to the pavement.
Oh, me.
Wait a minute. I think we got a red light. We got a red light for Rampage. Hercules just sitting there.
I don't blame him. Don't move until the light goes green. Now, he's going to make a completed run. We'll have to get with the special events people and find out exactly what the call is. But a 1465, the number doesn't really tell us anything. He got a break right there. Some days it's better to be lucky than good.
So Todd cuts the light a little too close right there, and he is just furious with himself in the cockpit. Tim sits there. Now you can see him banging around inside the cockpit. He is very unhappy with himself. Tim sits there and takes a very leisurely drive down the course.
What happened? That's all I can say.
I don't know. My brakes are, you can see them. They're smoking there, and I was trying to get on the gas a little bit, and it just rolled out. It went early. You see the brakes are hot. They're binding up going up there.
The next matchup, there's Pam Vaters in the Boogie van against Dan Runte and Bigfoot. But first, let's go back to the pit area and talk to Tim Tesmer.
You know, you got to go up to the line just like a fighter. You got to step over that ring and go after him. Does it bother you going up against a factory guy like that, or you just play your own game?
Shoot, it's anybody's game. And I think I had a lane advantage there today, and I was trying to psych him out by pulling up to the line without doing any dry hops, and I think it worked.
Well, the competition continues. There's Dan Runte, who ran a 4.93 in round one to defeat the Monster Patrol. He also qualified at 4.93, so he has been very consistent this afternoon. Now, the Boogie van with Pam Vaters ran a 5.33, the fast loser to Rampage.
You got to remember, though, the last time these vehicles ran, Dan played mind games with her. Remember, he psyched her out, pushed her into a red light situation. So watch Pam now. She's trying to take control of the starting line. She's not going to go until she wants to go.
Well, this has been a day of upsets and strange happenings, so let's see what happens if she can out-psych or defeat Dan Runte.
She runs him good, but Runte is like he is on a mission, Gary Lee. It's awesome. A 4.93, and you can hear him swinging the throttle when he went over the finish line.
That is 3 straight 4.93s today in qualifying round one and round two. As we take a look again, it was all Dan Runte. The Boogie van, incidentally, won a 5.32, but Runte remains unbeaten this season in Penda points competition.
Both drivers lead the start good, but, man, the second jump, Runte is just out and muscling his way to the end.
Semifinal pairings now will have Eric Meagher against Mark Hall. That will be the Executioner, and Tim Tesmer against Dan Runte in Bigfoot. And now back to the pit area.
Dan Runte, I tell you what, I know it's not easy, but you're making it look easy.
We've had a good race season so far this year, Army. The truck's working well. Ford Bigfoot's pulling a lot of wins out of here. You know, this has always been a tough weekend for us. We've come here and found out that maybe it isn't so bad. We're just going to have to wait and see. We're going for another win again today.
Well, Tim Tesmer is tweaking on Hercules, preparing for the semifinal round coming up. We welcome you back to Springfield, Missouri for the semifinals. The fans are excited as we take a look at Mark Hall and the Executioner, and he will have the task of going up against Eric Meagher in the Hulkster. And, of course, the Hulkster was the #1 qualifier earlier today.
But you got to remember, Mark Hall has developed his confidence. We're seeing a new Executioner team. This race is not a giveaway, believe me. Mark Hall now believes in himself and his driving ability. Eric Meager in the far lane's good, too, but we got to wait and see. We got a race. Chevrolet's going to take the win, Gary.
Well, a mechanical problem for the Ford for the Hulkster as Eric Meager pulls off. Your fast qualifier has been knocked aside. Mark Hall goes a 5.32. That will put him into the finals.
So, do you call it an upset or not? I think the guy just worked his way to the win.
Well, obviously there was a problem with the Hulkster, and right in no man's land, Eric Meager elected to pull off. So, obviously a problem, but that will put Mark Hall in the final.
You know, Gary, this is the first time Mark Hall has ever been in the final. We got another angle coming up on a replay, and I really can't tell what went wrong. Whatever happened in no man's land, because Meager opted not to even attempt that second jump. He just drove off the track. Meanwhile, in the lane closest to us, Hall running his own race to the final for the first time ever. Let's see how they fare.
Obviously, some kind of a mechanical problem with the Hulkster as it is being pulled off the race course. But Mark Hall has to be very, very happy to make his first finals ever. Here's Army.
Mark, if I'm not mistaken, this is your first final ever.
This is it. It's the first one. This is all right. We've never been here before, so I don't know. We knew he was going to have to pull out all the stops there, and I don't know what happened to Hulkster there. It looked like he had a few problems, but what's that saying? Sometimes it's better be lucky than good, I guess. So.
With all the surprises we have had this afternoon, can Tim Tesmer keep up the string of upsets and take out Bigfoot? Well, we'll find out soon enough. But first of all, let's go back to the pit lane to Army Armstrong and follow up on what happened to Eric Meagher.
What happened out there?
Oh, actually, I came over the first set, got the truck into high gear, and I think I took the input shaft out of the transmission as soon as we shifted to highs. RPM went up, and the MSD rev limiter looked like it did its job because the motor was definitely up there. It's a tough way to come back on a hook out to be towed off the track, but at least we made it to the semifinal round. Maybe next time we'll make it all the way.
So we'll go racing now for a right to go into the finals. Will it be that truck right there, Bigfoot, unbeaten all season long with Dan Runte at the controls? Or will it be the Hercules truck?
One thing you can bet on, Hercules is going to put it on kill. Oh, Runte reading the ride out. He has won the race already. Hercules pulls right off. I have no idea what can be going wrong with these vehicles, Gary.
Well, keep in mind, second place in the point standings is Eric Meagher. He will not be in the finals, which means that if Bigfoot can win this thing this afternoon, he will widen that gap between first and second in the Penda Points Championship. So Bigfoot with a 5-2-0. Hercules DQ'd.
Just like a mirror image of the last race, but the wind comes out of the right lane, the breakage comes out of the left lane.
Looking now at Bigfoot coming right at you. Boy, I tell you what, nobody can touch this truck this season. You talk about being lucky.
Yeah. Well, the harder you work, the luckier you get. Always remember that. These guys work awful hard.
But watch the suspension work. Nose down coming off that second set of cars. And look at the suspension work. Well, let's go down and talk to Tim Tesmer.
Tim, being a privateer, you got to be tickled to get down to 4 trucks.
Yeah, I was thinking today was my lucky day, but when I lost my oil pressure, I think I proved different.
Okay, now, did you shut the truck off and turn off?
Well, it felt weird when I went to take off, and I've got a light in there and I've got a gauge, and they both were at 0, and I veered off the track, yeah.
Disappointing for Tim, but for Mark Hall, he is going on to the finals against Dan Runte, and Dan Runte is yet to be defeated this season. Here's Dan with Army.
Were you aware that he was having any kind of problem at all?
No, Army, I mean, that's something Kenny and Gary and Herbie and all those guys try to drive in my head. Go out there, run your own race the lights, and go down through there the best you can. You know, you don't have time really anymore in a Penda series like this. We're going so fast that you got to run your own race, and you can't worry about what's going on over there.
So can Mark Hall be the executioner and take out Bigfoot? We'll find out. We welcome you back to Springfield, Missouri. Talk about four-wheel fun. The ultimate privateer would have to be the tough truck.
Yeah, we got an 83 Toyota, it looks like, on the track right now, Gary. Who would that be?
Well, that would be Sean Figley making the rounds and to the goading and cheering of the crowd. The windshield wipers even on, not sure why.
But only one windshield wiper's on. I'm not sure why either. Big jump. Ow! Oh, man. Well, he'll be at the front end shop Monday morning, but he'll be grinning in a minute.
Mark Hall gets set for his first final. In the executioner, he will take on Bigfoot. And talk about a big task. Bigfoot unbeaten this season as Dan Runte prepares to stage the big blue Ford.
Dan Runte, like you said, he's a sharp driver. He's a good driver, but he listens to people that have been around before. The kid in the lane next to him we're looking at right now, Mark Hall, the same way. These young men are the future of this sport. They both worked hard to get here, one in a Ford, one in a Chevrolet. keeps that win streak going, Gary.
Mark ran him hard. A good run for Mark, but a 5:11 slower than he had been. But Dan Runte wins it. He remains unbeaten, and Mark Hall goes a 5:23 in the Executioner. As you take a look again at the replay.
Like he said, he doesn't race the guy in the lane next to him. He races the track. He races the clock, and he races to the finish line.
Bigfoot remains unbeaten, pads the points lead in the Penda Points Championship. Let's go down trackside and visit with our winner.
After a few congratulatory words from your older mentor here, Herb Richards, this is a perfect season. It's never been done before.
We're working real hard at it. Thank Herbie and Kenny and all the guys here. I mean, like I said, we got a great team. Ford Bigfoot's working well. Firestone tires are hooking up where nobody else is. I just can't say enough about it. I mean, we got a bunch of great sponsors.
Mark, you know, is a good driver. That could have been the break he was looking for. It looked like he ran you hard down there.
He did. He ran all the way down through there. Like I said, I don't pay a lot of attention to what goes on the other side. It's just something you got to do. Go out there and run as hard as you can run every time you go in this group.
Well, 5 straight in the Penda Points Championship. Obviously, that guy right there has a big margin over Hulkster. But notice Executioner Mark Hall has knocked Pam Bonners out of the top 5. And here is Mark Hall.
Mark, your first final looked to us about a half a truck is all it was down there.
Yeah, we knew he was going to have to run it hard to beat those guys. And my hat's off to those guys. They ran hard, and they just, I think they outran us through the middle there and got us.
How about you guys now? Now you know you can do it. That's got to make you feel great.
Oh, that feels wonderful. This is great. It's a big confidence builder, and we'll take second place. That's all right.
So we can restore the Springfield area of the Ozarks to the serenity it enjoyed before the Monster Truck Weekend. Trucks and Tractor Power is a production of Diamond P Sports in association with the Nashville Network.